Welcome everyone to your channel, AI Fun Fact for All. For those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Pedro Magan. I have a PhD in computer science, and in this channel we talk about AI and machine learning and see how we can use it in order to improve our efficiency. As of right now, there are so many things talking about the vibe coding. In this video, we're going to talk about what is it and what are the best practices that we need to follow in order to build an app. I will use my own knowledge and what I've been done so far in order to let you know on 10 critical points that you need to follow in order to make the best out of AI coding. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. You may already have heard about vibe coding because it's booming right now, but I'm going to talk about a little bit description of what is considered as vibe coding and what are the best practices for that. Vibe coding is basically when you code as you describe it. You don't necessarily write a code. So basically what will happen is that we don't necessarily need to have someone specialized in a specific programming language, but rather we need someone as a subject matter expertise to know that what are the expected behavior, what are the things that we want, and then we try to maximize for that. So basically this is something that was originally from Silicon Valley in 2024-2025, so very recent idea to create coder to conductor of AI. So basically the programming with a large language model, they are creating a new area, because what happens is that right now, if we create a new language, which is the programming interface, when you actually need to use your English in order to write a code and try to basically generate the response that you want to use. So it's less about the syntax and more about clarity, and you need to use precise wording and you need to have precision in your apps. I already have created so many videos about how to do prompt engineering and what are the best practices. I will put a link for those contents, so if you're interested you can take a look. But the one that we are mostly interested in this one is that the best practices is specifically for generating the code, because what happens is that usually lots of tasks about AI is one directional. You just request something and then you get the response, or you maybe there's a few back and forth. But what will happen if you want to create a whole app or a prototype? There are so many things that needs to be happening, so you need to create a mechanism in order to be able to get the full out of the AI. We're going to talk about 10 important guidelines, so make sure to watch until the end so you don't miss any of these guidelines, because each of them are very important and it's going to have some impact on your generating code. So the first one is multiple tools. When you want to separate the front end and back end, so front end is something that the user is interacting in and back end is your logic that your app is gonna provide as a service. We have some AI tools that are really good at front end, such as Lovable and Cursor, and there are something that are good at back end, such as Windsurf. But there recently something that is good at both, which is Firebase by Google. I have created a video before. For that, I will put the link at the end of this video, which you can basically combine both of the front end and back end. And then the other thing is you need to cross-compare the AI output in order to pick the best one. Some models are very good at something and some models are not. Right now, the Google Gemini 2.5 is the best one. Previously, it was Claude. So you need to make sure that you understand which one is the most model that you can use, and then you can basically work on that. And you need to reduce your waiting time by building fast, build backwards. So I found this is really helpful, that when I'm trying to write a code, what will happen is that I try to not do micromanage or look at the exact unit test of what's the code is doing. I'm basically interested in the general behavior from the app. So I create the test myself usually, and say that okay, these are the expected behavior that we want, and then after that I will go and give it to the LLM to generate, and those basically test cases will create the guardrail and you don't necessarily need to know exactly each component is working properly. As long as you have the expected behavior that you want, it is good. Basically, you need to handcraft your own test cases, and you use AI for unit tests if you are interested, but not for integration tests, which basically consider multiple components of your system, and you text it as a contract for the AI, and then the green test when you get a green light and you will process. So based on that, we actually have the third guideline, which is creating the roadmap. That's very important for big project or any kind of building app from the ground up. You cannot just generate it on one go. So it's really important that you create a roadmap. You have a clear understanding with your LLM that both of you are on the same page. So what you need to do is that you need to co-create a project. It can be in Markdown or anything else, which you basically talk about what are the things that you want, and you can suggest some of the steps or stages to get that, or you can ask the LLM to actually come up with the different steps that you can basically create that. You talk about the won't do or the later ideas, because it's going to be a recurring process, so you're going to go back and try to fix it. And then what's important in this roadmap is that you're going to kind of clear out what is your plan, and you can even ask the LLM to actually build out this plan for you, and you can ask it to ask clarifying questions, so you make sure that you guys are on the same page, because there are so many things that we think we know, but then the LLM actually spotted and asked you clarifying question. And I found that to be very helpful to let LLM ask us what are the things that is missed. After you have this roadmap, you need to consider the stage development. This is a very popular and well-known way of actually writing code, so you need to also consider it in your vibe coding. This basically means that you want to write a step by step based on the roadmap. So the roadmap actually creates the different stage or different milestones for you, and in each one you want to target that milestone. You don't want to create the whole thing in one go, which is basically creates a problem for you. So you want to tackle one session at a time, and whenever you reach to that session, you want to run the test, so you make sure that you achieve the functionality that was needed to be achieved on that point, and then you're gonna move forward. So you don't want to stack messy layers, so many things that are wrong, and then you go on the next stage, so then you don't know where the error was. So each piece needs to work and completely tested. So for that, what we really need is something called version control. This is another very important topic, but it's very simple, which basically you want to keep track of your different stages as you achieved or reach a milestone, and you already have tested that, so you want to somehow save it, so then later on you can come back to it and say, okay, I have done this stage. Because what will happen is that when you are going to the next stage, sometimes you might change the previously correct logic because you want to solve some issue, and then some other thing that were correct will actually get wrong. So you want to always have this availability to come back and basically create your undo buttons. So you basically you want to avoid your crossed code by having this version control. The very popular one is obviously GitHub. You want to submit it. If you want to have it private, you can make a private one, but basically this is really important, so you keep track of all of your changes, and whenever something is not working as expected, you always have the option to roll back to the stage that was working, at least some of the functionality that you want. After that, what really important is that the debugging. So the AI will generate some code, but there's no guarantee that it always works, and it's a part of writing the code that it requires some debugging. So basically that's the back and forth that you got. So the best option that I found to for the debugging to correct is basically just paste the error message into AI directly. So if there is an error message, just copy that and paste it there, and what you will you get the response, you understand it, and you try to apply, you try to look at the way that it wants to make changes, but make sure if there is a refactoring, if there is any change on the main logic, you need to run the test. So what we need to do, you need to basically make sure your main functionality or core functionality are actually always intact. After that, what's really important on the 7th step, I would say, is the documentation. So documentation is important first on the roadmap that we talk about on the 3rd stage, which is basically you want to have a same grounding, but at the same time, some other instruction is also very important. So LLMs can have access to your workspace, which is basically a combination of all of the files that you have and some of the documentation that you have. So for LLM, it really doesn't matter if it's a code or a document, but it gives the reinforcing to make sure that it understands. So you need to create some doc folders, same as like how you create test folders for your app. It's a good idea to create a doc folder, which you basically try to copy and paste the documents that are related onto your work. Sometimes you need to use some specific languages, some specific APIs, some specific frameworks that are fairly new and there's not a lot of training data. It's not a good idea to ask the LLM to actually access internet. It's going to be cumbersome. So a better idea would be if you download that specific API that you're working on, or something that is not very popular in the background and the test date of the LLM, and you try to paste it inside your docs, and it have access to that, and it will use that documentation for the API in order to run the code and generate the result. After that is your tech stack. So tech stack is really important. I put it at the 8, but basically you are a little bit confined on that. What we really you want to use a mature framework, and it's kind of the limitation of the current AI, because I might want to use a specific tech stack that is suitable for me, but you might not want to do that because there are not enough documentation for that. So it's going to create a lot of burden just because you want to go with some of your favorite framework, but it's not very popular. So I would suggest going with a popular one, like for example JavaScript and lots of other packages like Rust and so on, but don't try to go on very nuanced packages, even if it is very good for you. It make your job a lot easier. Try to separate the prototyping and the DevOps stage or a scaling stage of your app development completely separate. AI right now is only good for prototyping. And multi-modal is something that's also very important. Right now you can talk to the code. Sometimes it's harder to narrate what you want on texting, so you can basically talk to it. You can send screenshots. This is usually helpful for the UI or the front end. Firebase Studio have that. I've created a video for that. There are other test cases that basically they use this screenshot and multimodal capability to understand where the fixes, how to fix the bugs, and then the multimodal input, so you can have a return input. And finally is the refactor. So refactor is very important because in the beginning the AI wants to just generate some response based on what you ask, but as you go and progress, you reach to some stage that some of the previous requirements does not meet anymore, or it creates some redundancy. So it happens a lot in your progressive development, and it's also a very good idea that sometimes you actually try to refactor the code, and the task is just refactor it and try to make it more robust, make it more reliable, and these are the things that needs to happen gradually. What's important is that you need to keep it fresh and modular. So this is also another important thing. You need to emphasize on APIs and services rather than having one complete huge service that capture all of the components of your system. You want to have it modular. It has some other downsides of it, but for prototyping, definitely for sure you need to go with a modular API solution. And you need to also always come back to your roadmap and try to evolve it. As a final highlight, I want to say that as a developer, you need to focus on your horizontal progress rather than vertical, which means that you need to be good at one single thing and try to be the best, be a subject matter on that, because AI won't be able to be good on that. And what happened is that right now AI is good at multiple different things. So these kind of skills is not very much popular anymore. If you know like so many things but on a very small degree, you want to know one single thing and know it very well, and that's where you definitely want to position yourself. And as I mentioned, AI good for prototyping, and keep an eye on the latest model. AI will become and change every day, and it become a commodity, so it doesn't really matter what AI you're gonna choose. The concept is basically using the best AI model for your use case. And there you have it, guys. We went over 10 different guidelines that are really important in order to write code with AI, or basically vibe coding. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, more importantly subscribe to the channel, and if you want to see more videos like this, you can watch this video that I talk about Firebase Studio and how you can use it to develop a full stack, or you can watch this video that I talk about AI agents and how you can use it to integrate in your programming. Thanks for watching, and see you until the next one.